with the web client as well. I'll get that on there as well. Hold on. Okay,
Andrew, I started the recording.
Okay, good. Thank you. I see it. Yeah, a red dot shows up when I'm doing my share thing, so I see it there. Okay. So in the last, I can't remember what release we do things anymore, so forgive me for my own inability to remember certain things. But we were asked to build, the abilities for people in the buildings to have awareness, if you will, more as limited users, people that are in the self-service system. Whether somebody is coming up, people in the building won't be there, they're going to be absent and so forth. So the question really is, when they run this inquiry, and I probably have no data, well, look, I'm not even set up for it, what they can see. Can they press this button? And if they can press this button, what are they allowed to see? So that's really, I think, where your question is coming from. How do we kind of get this configured and get this running? And so I need to, of course, remember myself, but I think I do remember. And so I'm going to go back to the Windows. I'm on the Windows client now. I was mixed up where I was. This is the web client. So this is where I would be pushing this button. And maybe actually it'll work right now. Let me see. So it's one of those things that I haven't run it in a long time, so it's caching the programming part of it. So that's why it's taking a little bit of time the first time. Okay, yeah, there we go. So I don't have any people coming up. We can go ahead and put some leave in and get it approved and have stuff show up there in a second, but it is working. So if I click it again, it should work much faster. Yeah, very fast. So it's just kind of the first time is why I was sluggish there. So how do I configure it? And then we can put some transactions in to kind of see how it works. So when we do configuration of it, there's two parts of it. One is that we go into leave administration under the HR components, and then we have these inquiry access rules. We need to define those. And then eventually we need to assign them to our users. And so that's really the two pieces of this. So that's just that. Right now, we haven't introduced the ability to indicate what access rule the user has when we're creating the users from the ERC. We have a functionality here, which hopefully you're familiar with, where we can actually create the users from the employees. But in this particular program, we don't have in there the ability to insert an inquiry capability there. So the assumption is that you've already created the users and you're going to go back to the user card and put that in. And I'll show you how to do that in a few minutes. So let's kind of go back to leave administration. So if that's something that you need, in other words, I guess what I'm trying to say is if you think you need the ability to sort of assign the inquiry access rule at the time that you're creating the users, that's fine. I think the thought process there, you're going to create them more en masse, and then you're just going to kind of update certain users in the building. You kind of don't want to make it universal. It's not like everybody should really be able to see everybody else's leave. I would think it would be more about people that are in the know, whether it's principal, assistant principal, building secretary, maybe department managers. It's people that need to know. It's kind of a need to know basis, right? That's the theory behind this. Everything's going on the wrong screen, so I got to move everything over. Okay. All right, so when you're building a rule, you're basically, and it's fairly straightforward, you're using, in essence, the same constructs that we use for the approval rules, where you can basically create a inquiry access rule based on the class filter, the location, the reporting group, all those kinds of things, basically, that are really values, if you will, that are in the leave request. So when we put a leave request in, and I want time off for next week, the system is pulling into that leave request information to say what leave group I belong to, what class code I happen to be in, what employee location where I go every day, the reporting group filter, that is a field that's on their default job, so that comes in as well, and that's again just a user definable way to sort of group people, but do it more at the job level, if you will. And again, the default job. The next value is the default job. So that's a value that comes in off the employee master record into the leave request, their default job. Who is their manager? So we have a field on the employee card that says who's that person's manager. What user level is that employee at, user group, and user ID. Those are fields that are connected back to the user card that's related to that employee. So when the employee is putting a leave request in, the system goes out and says, what is their user ID that's associated with that employee, and then it brings to the leave request any user level, user group. I think the typical ones that you're going to think about are probably going to be maybe the class filter, the default job, and the employee location. So you may say, let me create a leave inquiry for all the cafeteria workers for the high school. Okay, and and again, you have to sort of then understand, how do I define the cafeteria workers? Do I define them through the class filter or maybe the default job? Did I start all their jobs with cafe something? I don't know, this example here, I type in cafe. Oh, it doesn't do a lookup. That's right, because it's sorry. We'll talk about how this actually works in a second. But if I do a lookup here in my jobs here, I have cafe baker, cafe this, cafe that. So what you could theoretically do is you could just go CAFE asterisk, and then that would be good enough. Okay, and so we're using now wildcarding capability to say, hey, go ahead and limit this now. This particular rule is anybody that has a job that has the first 4 characters of cafe where they're in the high school. Okay, and then I might assign that to who? Well, I might assign that to the user, which is the manager of the cafeteria, because that person, when they go on their self-service and they click on inquiry, they now get restricted to seeing the future time off that is going to occur for people that are within their purview, if you will, their charge. So that's what you're thinking about. I, of course, don't think that Trekka, you're going to set these up. I think you're going to teach your client how to set these up and do all this. I don't think you necessarily want to get into doing this. Maybe you do a couple for them just to demonstrate it, but I think in a sense you want them to think through this and set these guys up. How many you're going to set up, I don't know. I guess I'll turn to you, Dan, and say, have you actually used this feature? And if so, for a particular customer, one of the Trekka clients, let's say, do you know how many rules you established, or has this not been put into play right at this point?
Well, I think it's been put into play. Of course, it was set up for Princeton, but it also comes into play for, I think, River Valley may have been another district that was looking to use it. And then, as these other districts really start initiating the web client, the leave, and some of those things, we haven't had, I don't think, other than River Valley. Y'all help me. I'm trying to think. I don't think Perkins hasn't done anything with the ERC and leave. I don't know if Knox was moving that direction, but
yeah. Well, let's. I mean, again, it's fairly straightforward. You put these values in. You can put the code description. When you build these guys, we do have an assist. So when we click on it, if it's blank, it'll go out and do a lookup. But then from that point on, it'll start popping up things like this. So if you say, I want to go ahead and do everybody that's in the high school and the middle school, I could just come in here. It'll do another lookup, which is going to a completely different screen, and say, I don't know, middle school. And it kind of builds a filter for you. But the filters we're asking you to put in here are any kinds of filters you might type just in the normal operation of the system. So pipes, dots, not equal to, less than, greater than. Those are the kind of things you should be thinking about. And asterisks, of course. So even in this example here, I could do cafe asterisk, and I could come in and do or. And I could do, I don't know, attendance. Let's say I do attendance. And then all I have to do, if I want to say attendance asterisk, would be something like this. Okay, and so that means anybody that's a cafeteria worker or starts with ATT. So you can use asterisks with pipes to do things like that. So all that filtering is critical in our product. It's something that the guys that, Dan and James that are on this call that have used Nav for years are very familiar with, but it's something that we all need to be familiar with, is how to express things in filters. I say to people, if you want to learn how to do filters, practice it just in a live setting, meaning go to like the payroll jobs, go to payroll administration, go to payroll jobs, and then just go up at the top and practice entering different kinds of filters and see that you get the results that you would expect. And then you know now how to sort of enter it here. Or if it's at the location, go bring up your locations and set filters. And I guess what I mean by that is, let me just close this for a second. Let's just take employee locations as our simple example. If I go to payroll administration and go to employee locations, which are called payroll locations, I think. Yep. As different from locations in the normal part of NAV, which are warehouses, right, Chris? I think you were asking a question in that area the other day. What is the difference between a payroll location and a location? This is the location of what building they're in. Is really what it's all about. But what I mean by this is that on the code. So I say, okay, I want, that's not a great example. Let me do jobs. I think jobs, I get better choices here. So you can just practice entering filters to see what it does. So taking the example I had, and I'm going to actually do the more advanced version of this. So if I go ahead and say, cafe, asterisk, okay, yeah, that seems to be what I want, and then again, using my other example, ATT, asterisk. Okay, yeah, that's getting what I want. So you kind of get the ideas of how to build that. One thing that I've also seen recently is you can actually do not equal to. So I'm wondering if I can show an example. Not equal to help. Let's just see if this will work. So I'm thinking might happen is that it may self-limit and take these other two records out. Maybe give me an error. I don't know. No, that didn't work. That didn't work. I guess that's giving you kind of some funky results. So that tells me that's too exotic. I can't get that to work that way. Let me remove this again and see if there's another way I could approach. Let's say I didn't want to get these helps. I mean, about the only way I could see how I could do that is maybe what I could also do is ampersand. Maybe that's what I should have said.
That's what I was just unmuting myself to suggest.
Yeah.
I think you need to throw the ampersand in there.
Yeah, I think maybe that's not. How about like that? No, it didn't like that, so that tells me it didn't like that. I have to and, right? That's right. There we go. There we go. Sorry. Take me a second. It's a little bit early in the morning, and my brain is, I've been traveling yesterday, so I'm a little bit off my game. But there you go. That's an example of a very complex filter working. And so I stuck with that one. I went with the ampersand not equal to asterisk help asterisk. So that actually self-limited even within the cafe asterisk. So this is a game. It definitely can be a complex game because people come up with codes, and sometimes we don't realize how we want to then work with those codes in effective ways. And, of course, I could have just gone cafe baker, pipe, cafe baker, OT, cafe cook, whatever. So you can do things like that. But after a certain point, you run out of room. I mean, we only allowed, I think, 250 characters or something like that. So, that sounds like a lot, but you'd be surprised sometimes how that can go pretty quickly. So I'm just trying to show you a demonstration on how I and how we together as nav people kind of get used to sort of testing and constructing filters in effective ways. Well, what I'm asking you to do in this HR area now is to then do that and apply. And again, most of yours might be much simpler than this, but then you can apply them in this way here. And so so this is an example where you can create a rule. And again, I'm just going to go ahead and say, keep it real simple, limit to high school and middle school this test. Then what we would do is we'd go to the user setup. That's what we're going to do next. And I'm going to go to AVF because AVF is actually the login I use to get into the web client. I use AVF, not AVF domain version, but just this one. So when I get to my user card, of course, we have the section called additional setup fields, which everything from an application setup and perspective exists. Everything's on the wrong screen today. And in there, we added recently this. And there you go. So that's where you would assign this leave inquiry access code to this user. When it's blank, you're going to get that message that you saw earlier, which says you are not set up to use this feature. So the only way to have a user be able to use this is you have to give them one of these values. Then on the web client, when you click on this guy right here, it's going to immediately go to the user setup card. It's going to go find that code, figure that filter out, and apply it, basically, is what it's doing. Oh, there I go. I guess Melissa Clark is in the middle school. Yeah, she's in the middle school. So I see that she's got something out there that's still in the system. Now, in terms of how this screen works, I think what we're doing here is we show process requests, hide process request. So if we show process requests, then it actually will give you everything, even if it's in the history. Okay, and this will hide that. In terms of other approval history for this request only, I can't remember what this does. Oh, okay, it's approval history. I'm sorry. Yeah, that just shows the approval history of this one request. So if I show process requests, and I want to see who approved this one, because that may be the question. I'm going, well, who approved that person being off? Then they could click on there and they could see who approved it. So that was the purpose of that. In terms of days to view, I think that's the part that it took a while for Dan, you to figure this out, because this was a little bit confusing. What we're doing here, and maybe we need to kind of do this a little bit different, is that we're basically using this as a way to see the next 5 days or 10 days. So if I do 10 and just tab off of that, then the system will go ahead and calculate and show me the next 10 days. And so the only one it's actually coming up with is Melissa's, that's in January 16th. And I can't remember if I say the next 5 days, it's probably going to disappear, I imagine. If I say, let's say 7 days, maybe it'll appear. Yeah, so 7 days from today. What is today, the 9th, 16th? So yeah, it starts to show up on the 9th. So if I say 6, it'll probably go away. So I think it's using the first date is what it's using. It's using today's date plus number of days to come up with this. And the idea now is to say, give me the next 5 days, because the cafeteria manager is really only interested in the next 5 days because she has to plan to make sure she's got staff adequately available to her to make lunch, make lunches or breakfasts or whatever it needs to be. So the idea of 0, if you put it to 0, is it just comes back with everything within this part right here. Now, I feel like, yes, 16 records retrieved. If you hide process request, 1 record retrieved. So this will update with the correct value. Okay. The order in which it's appearing, I believe, yes, is in inverse order. So we're showing this, I guess, more current, and we're going back in time. Okay, so some of this is showing previous time, but it's showing the most latest and it's going back in time is what it's doing. Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense. Again, this is a piece of software I threw out there with the request of the buildings needing to know what the story is, but I don't know really, quite honestly, whether something else needs to be changed. I haven't got a lot of feedback, I guess, what I'm trying to say from this functionality. They can put filters in, so if they want to go ahead and filter for something, maybe, I don't know, I'm not sure what. They have some capability here. They could do a filter, say I just want personal days or whatever coming up, or maybe I want to filter just for Clark. So I can come in here and they can just filter and put in Clark. So they do have that capability as well. And of course, then they can release the filter. So normally on a lot of these screens on the web client, we've limited their ability in this area of filtering, but because we don't want them to for certain reasons. But in this case, we do. We want them to be able to understand that they can filter for different types of things. And so that's something else that you might want to, show them how to do. But that's the leave inquiry capability. Certainly open to, enhancements. One of the areas that might not be intuitive is just having this days here. So if you don't like that, about the only thing I could do probably would be to just put a button up here and it pops up a screen where they enter in and they hit OK and it closes and it refreshes. That would probably be a way to do it. I try to do it a little bit so it's actually always present, but the problem is the web client is making it so that the box is way over here, kind of away from the prompt. And I tried to fix that, but no matter what I did, it caused other problems. So if you don't think that is intuitive, which I kind of feel it might not be, I'm open to putting a button here as opposed to having it sit right like that. Any questions on leave inquiry from the peanut gallery, either K-12 or TRECA?
Nope, you're good.
Good. Okay, so what's the next thing you want to talk about? Because when you said leave reports, I guess now I'm realizing you meant leave inquiry, right? I mean, do you want to talk about leave reporting more from the Windows client? Is that what you were wanting to talk about as well? You there? Hello? Anybody talking? Everybody's muted.
Yeah, they may be discussing among themselves.
Sorry,
That's okay.
I couldn't find my mute button.
You couldn't? I can unmute you guys, by the way.
Yeah, I can never find it either.
I found it. I'm sorry. I was like, this has been a morning. Okay, so anyhow, yes, on the Windows client, if we could go through some of those different kind of filterings that districts could use. I know we've had some inquiries on, like, they want to do some in-depth type leave report, like criteria down to a group or a person for a time period based on a control.
Right. Well, again, and it depends on which format they're interested in. There's more of a summary versus a detail. So let's just maybe take the detail report as an example. So, I mean, they realize, I'm assuming, that there's 4 reports here. But these reports are really reports going against the posted data that occurred from retrieving the leave request in the time journal and processing it into the ledger. Then these reports all run against the ledger. Obviously on the self-service system, the employee sees both data posted in the ledger, which is what these reports work from, as well as, of course, they see pending and all that stuff from their current leave request. So are there reporting requirements more about what leave is going to happen? I mean, should we develop some new reports that are more about the leave requests that are kind of still in process? Or is it more about leave that has been processed? They want to analyze it further. I guess, what is your thoughts on what they're looking for?
Well, here's one specific report that, like, Princeton has asked for, and they need some type of report. Well, I guess it's more based on their sick incentive. They want to be able to see, like, how many employees were out during a group of time, by day, by week, because they pay a sick leave incentive to these employees. So they're looking for some background documentation for this pay.
So, but again, do you have any, see, what I normally turn to the client and say to them is, can you just prototype this in Excel for me and show me what it looks like? Because, it's tough to sort of, you hear that, but then you feel like, okay, I'll go out and build X, and then you deliver, and they go, well, no, that's not what I really meant. You know what I mean? And so I'm wondering if you ask them to put it down on Excel and say, just give us what it would look like, then all of a sudden we go, now I understand. And then maybe we have something already, or maybe not. Because these reports really aren't designed to do what you just described, which is a sort of almost give me kind of almost like period comparisons. They're looking for trends and things like that, right? I mean, that's kind of what they're asking for. It's like an analytic type of a kind of thing. There is a capability in the system. I'm trying to think. I can't remember where it is or whether we got rid of it because it was having some problems. I'm trying to think where it would be. Analysis. Absence overview by categories by period. So absence overview by period. Let's see. I haven't ran this in a long time, so don't. And this is, so cause of absence filter. Okay, and I'm wondering if maybe what I should do is let's switch over now to your environment, and that might be easier because you have better data than what I have. So let me, hold on, let me just get rid of this. Get rid of, nope. Okay, so does Perkins have a lot of leave data? I just can't remember who has a lot of leave there. Should we switch to Princeton?
A lot of leave data would be Princeton.
Okay. And we might also go to their production, I think. All right, I gotta log in, which takes 10 hours.
You said it, we didn't.
Well, it's like I said, this is a Microsoft issue. They've got to fix this. I know I've complained on previous sessions about that, so I shouldn't just beat a horse now. Okay. All right, so I'm in this area called Reports and Analysis, and we're going to absence overview by periods. Okay, so let's see what their cause of absences are, because it's based on cause of absence at this point. So which one are you thinking about?
Let's just pull one like self-illness.
Self-illness?
Yes.
Oh, that means that they're actually sick as opposed to a child, right? That's kind of what that means.
That's what they're telling us, yep.
Yeah, view by day, view, didn't that change? And we're going to say, give me the trend from, I don't know, 1101. Whoops. Can I not change that? Oh, I guess I have to. It's showing me a month. Let me go previous set. Oh, I see. It's changing. So I'm doing a day, but it's only allowed me to do, because I'm doing days, so it's only allowed me to do so many days. You know what I mean? That's kind of what's, that's kind of how that's built. Show matrix. Let's see what this shows. Oh, it's by all the employees, you know what I mean? So it's not employee groups, it's employees, you know what I mean? So it's like, I'm not sure how useful that is. I mean, that's why I go, well, that's exciting, but we got 7 million employees, in our world, I'm not sure why that's exciting. Let me see if I do it by, let's just do it by month, and now it's doing a lot of months. Let's go back to May. Oh my God, that seems like a lot. Show matrix. Yeah, that's not what I want either, because it's just, you know what I mean? It's like, and what do I do with this? This is Microsoft's original thing, you know what I mean? So I just don't know how that's useful.
Correct.
I just don't get it. It's just the
well, I can see how that matrix would be useful. However, it's setting that column. If you could set that column for a certain time period, then that's great. You go to the matrix, you shoot that over to Excel, and then you have by employee, by whatever.
Yeah, well, but again, the problem with it is, yes, I could. It's just the other question is, can I pop that to Excel? Let's see what I can do. If I do that, I'm just trying this. Copy rows. Okay, and I'm going to go open up Excel here. I think I'm opening up Excel. I think it's still copying, actually.
Yeah. Andrew, I don't know if you can do this either, but where you would have the advanced filter that's kind of hid right now, I'm just curious that once you get to the matrix screen, can you actually adjust the date range from there?
Yeah, I don't know either. Well, there is the data. Let me see. But again, I can just, because they didn't start till probably, let's just say that,
Right.
So I can do that, Yeah, that's useful information, actually. You know what I mean? I'm not sure why do their employee numbers have those low numbers, and they have these big numbers. Does anybody know that?
Yeah, they did some renumbering.
Okay. Yeah, so that actually is not bad information. It's much better in Excel because it's just completely unwieldy over, in here. You know what I mean? What am I going to do with that? Now, what James is saying is, can we go in here and limit it further? And see, the thing is, the problem with that, James, is that these are actually, this is like temp data. They've sniffed together. You know what I mean? It's just not what you think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem. So I don't know how you would hide those columns. I can't, you know what I mean? It's just like, now it doesn't mean I can't go into this tool. I can go into this tool and maybe fix it if we think it can be able to do other stuff. But I mean, I guess we should at least train them on this in the sense that, hey, you can do it by, now that's by month. You know, again, I could have done it by year, but if I do it by year, look at the years it's given me. I mean, really? I mean, because it's allowing for X columns. I think in its mind, it's kind of like already saying, I'm going to do 50 columns. I'm just making that up. You know, I don't know how many columns that is. Well, 17 and 14 is what? 31. It's probably 35 columns or something, you know. So they've kind of, you know, we could probably add some functionality here to make it more self-limited, you know what I mean? So it's a little bit more visually useful. Now, when you do this, let me just kind of see this real quick. I just want to see some data again. This online probably is drillable to the transactions itself.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
well, if there's going to be any tweaking to that, and this is just putting this out there, if you're going to make that functionality a little better for that column set, I know for some districts, because a lot of things run off of those employee location codes, not only by being able to criteria on the Windows client by a certain column set, but also by a location, like other types of filters that you could throw in there. And then that matrix that's already set up, that would be great if you could do that by, it was almost like a calendar.
Yeah, so what you're saying is you like the matrix functionality, but you want to enhance it. Now, we do have this other version here, which is the one by category. And so let's take a look at this one now. This one, again, I'm not sure it really meets our needs either, but let's kind of do it by month again, net change. Now, it doesn't look like, I don't know what my date filter is here. I don't really understand where I introduced the date filter, so I'm a little confused. I see the employer number employee filter, which, again, is very little limiting. What is this? I'm not sure what that means. So let's just press the button. Oh. Yeah. How is that helpful to me? What do those numbers even represent?
Yeah, it doesn't, it says filter by month, but you don't, well, it has, there's your period start, I guess.
Yeah, but this is, I don't believe the data because it's repeating, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so it's a cumulative is what it is, meaning that, you know, 17 and then this 108 actually in September, I'm sure, is net change. The net amount of time was, you know, the difference between those two numbers. You know what I'm saying? In other words, if I click on this, it'll include August transactions, I believe. Let me see if it does or doesn't. Yeah, see, there's some August transactions. It's just picking up that plus a delta, plus a delta, plus a delta. It's just going to grow as I go down. Well, it's not going to grow past that because we haven't gone past that in time. So I'm not sure how that's that helpful. Now, but again, maybe I can fix this. I don't know why it would be showing me as a growing number. Why wouldn't it do a net change? And, I mean, there's the thing right there. So it's set to net change, but yet it's doing a balance. You know, let's see, maybe it's, you know what? It's flipped. They made a mistake, didn't they? It's actually flipped. I've never seen that before. So you can tell I haven't used this much, but that balance of dates acting as net change and vice versa. So what this is actually showing you, which is actually kind of interesting information, it's showing it to you by month, by type.
Right.
That actually is interesting.
It is actually, that is helpful for auditors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
The set of auditors we had always asked for that kind of stuff. And there is...
What's this code mean?
Sick.
Oh, look at that. Is that when we loaded in the bounce forwards maybe or something? I don't know what that probably is. That's probably the bounce forward data coming in. So probably that one date, August, is that when we kind of went live and rolled in their beginning data? Probably did. Let's flip this, by the way, to week. Yeah, you'll see a big number at the top, I still suspect. Well, it must be right then. I can't imagine they had 67,000 days.
Yeah.
That's a little. But this is good data. This is by week now, so you can show you trends.
Well, and that was a positive figure, too, so.
Yeah, you're right, exactly. Yeah, the nice part about this is that, for the most part, this data only generates the taken data. The accruals don't get in here. This is the absence data, which is really taken. It all shows as negative. By the way, that's another thing I would fix is just switch the signs. You know, switch the signs, give you more filtering capability. I mean, do you want to maybe on your own use these two tools and then give us sort of guidance on what you want done, and we'll create a work order around it? I mean, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think you should just, you know, the reports again are more tabular-based reports that we're talking about, but these are more online analytic tools, these two guys here. And so I think we should just enhance them, you know, and get real use out of them. Now, still, they're only available on the Windows client, so I'm assuming they're only going to be run by people in the HR and, you know, kind of back office. It's not something that's being run. I don't expect it to be run, you know, like the inquiry system on the self-service module, right? I don't think it's an appropriate tool for that.
Exactly. No, that is correct. Yeah, no, there are people in the background that need that kind of information. So.
Okay. So can we put that action on your plate, that not your specific, but you being Trekka's plate, that you guys will kind of study this and then give me for both of these analytics, or say for the category one, I want this. I think you're going to end up wanting some of the same things. Certainly remind me to flip this, to fix this thing, you know, because this is wrong. This is, no, not this one, but the other one was wrong, the category one. Oh, this is the category one, sorry. Yeah, the category one is flipped. So when you say net change, see how it came back to net change, by the way?
Right.
So it just keeps going back. It's also coming back to the initial settings. It's not saving my settings. So I would say let's change it so it saves the settings. Let's enhance it. Let's fix this little problem here. Let's change the sign. Let's add more filtering capabilities. Maybe I could do it by building, whatever, you know, that kind of thing.
Okay.
I don't know this tool that well, but, you know, once I know what you want, I'll be able to work it. And certainly on the period one, being able to do more controlling the period. I think the way to do the periods is I'm not really sure, because what they're doing here is they're allowing, no matter what I pick, so if I pick days, it's 9, well, let's see, it seems like it's designed to pick 30 columns.
Yeah.
I think is what it's doing.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Is there a way that the user can define what period? I mean, view it as a week, start with this date,
To
or
that
view
date?
it as a yes.
Yeah, I don't know why not. I mean, the thing is that this set here was designed to go up set, down set based on using the 30 rule based on the concept you're doing here. So, but again, since this one is only by periods, I don't see why we don't allow you to put a date range. And then if it's more than 30, okay, maybe that is a limit. Then we just go into error as soon as you hit this show matrix button. It says, no, you cannot specify date range based on view by. That's going to generate more than 30 columns. You know what I mean? I mean, because there might be a reason why, for performance reasons, they wanted to limit it to 30. So that's fine. They just forced it to 30. You know, you should be able to say, let me go ahead and put in, you know, a date range of, let's say, 3 months, flip this to month, expect to get 3 columns, right? I mean,
Right.
you know, and then filter for a bunch of employee stuff and so forth. It is interesting that this one, the net change, is net change. Let me see if I can prove it again. Where are my numbers? Oh, hold on. Oh, no. Let me do it by year. I'll do it by year again. All right. Yeah, look at that. Isn't that bizarre? I can't even get 14 and 15 on an, you know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, I agree 100%. It doesn't make any sense. I kind of understand why they're doing this, because when you're picking years, well, what dates are you going to put in that I know what you're even talking about? You know what I mean? I can sort of see where, you know, because I think what they'd want you to do is be able to edit that and actually put in year ... year. You know what I mean? In other words, like they did. So when you get to the week one, notice what it's doing. It's actually giving you the week numbers. So that is the second week in 2015 to the 33rd week in 15. So it's like, well, how can I expect a user to really even enter that? You know what I mean?
Right.
So so that's kind of, I can see the dilemma of the designer and what they were trying to struggle with in terms of how to be able to control this in a way that makes some sense.
Hey, Andrew.
Yes, sir.
What if you were to try to just, do a start date, and then based on, if you're doing it by week, you just run out to 30 weeks or how many weeks you
I like that
design.
I like that. Well, why
And
don't
that
we
way,
do
that way
this?
the user doesn't have to worry about putting a range in, really.
I
I guess
agree.
they could, but
No, but I think that makes sense, Bill. I think what we want to say is you pick the view by, you pick the start date, and you pick the number of columns, and we don't let you go more than 30. And then we just figure it out from there. So if you say, start by year, and you put the start year in, I guess. Well, I guess you'd have to put – the problem is that, if I actually allow you to put a date, then how do I know you're going to put a date that's the start of? But I can figure that out. In other words, if you pick a date that's, let's say, Tuesday in a week, I'll just infer that that's really Monday in the week. You know what I mean? I'll just go, well, obviously they just weren't thinking, so I'll do it for them. You know what I mean? Because the month, did you pick the beginning of the month? Well, if you pick the 4th of a month, do I just force it to the 1st of the month? So I think that's what we'd have to do is we'd have to force you to the first of the concept of whatever date you put in as that start date. But I think that would work well, Bill, is you put a start date, you say number of columns, I'll just figure out the rest of it from there.
you just need to you'll need to be careful when they get down to, I guess, quarter and year, and really, I guess, year, because they're going to want to, I'm assuming, to do this on a school year basis.
Right.
For some types of leave. So,
Right.
If they put in 2014, you say, 2014, let's go back to January 1st, 2014.
Yeah,
And
no,
that's where the accounting period would come in?
I don't
well,
know.
what's the accounting period usually mean in this example?
I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know
click
what
it.
you-
Click
Well,
it.
let's
See what
actually
it
do
year.
it. No, there it is. Yeah, see, there it is.
is. July 1st,
7/1.
okay. Beginning of fiscal year.
Well, but again, I don't know what that means because
No, accounting period is if you have a non-traditional accounting period, like it's not a month. Some businesses have like a 4, 4, 5 week accounting period. Almost no one uses that, so that really hardly ever comes into play. But that's what accounting period is for if you don't account or you don't define your accounting periods by a month, which vast majority of people, 99% do.
You can see this one. So actually here I'm getting 3-1 to 7-1. Actually, that's probably the best one I've seen so far in terms of ranges that actually relate to real information. So I'll click that one actually.
So Andrew, when that comes up like that, would there be a checkbox that says hide 0 balances? So if there's no data for that person, you would hide it, or you would so you'd only see people that have taken it. But then if you're looking at it like Heidi was describing, you're wanting to see who has not taken any sick, then you would want to see, okay, who's not taking any.
Right.
I like that idea.
So then you don't get, like you say, you got 1,500 employees, you don't get 1,500 rows, you get 100 rows or 140 rows, unless you want to see the opposite, and then you go, okay, here's X amount of people that didn't take any sick, and they're going to get a sick leave incentive.
Yeah. I think it's all good. I mean, I haven't looked at the code behind this, so we can talk, we can dream all we want, and then I'll look at the code and go, oh my God, this is not going to work at all. So, but let's put it together. I mean, I think what we could do is, Truckee, you guys start on what you think makes sense, and it's a Dan. Dan, maybe you and James can put some thoughts on. Then Bill, you can take a look at. You know what I mean? You collectively, let's put a work order together for both of these analyses, and let's get them to the level that K-12 enterprise needs. As opposed to this tool here was really built for just generic. I guess it's Serenic, right? Is that who would have done it? I guess, James, or is this might actually be native nav from Microsoft? I think these 2 pages, I believe.
Well, it may have come originally from Microsoft, but if it has to do with payroll, I would have thought
it's not payroll. It's absence information, which is generic. Look at the page number. It's 5225.
Okay.
Yeah, this is just native Microsoft out of the original Microsoft factory. Yeah.
That's strange.
Yeah, it is. Well, not strange. I mean, that's just what comes in worldwide. You have a worldwide sort of absence registration functionality that payroll is just pushing data to, if you will. So in theory, somebody can buy just base nav and just record absences and use this tool. That's what it was. That's the thought process. We've never looked at it in terms of bringing on more capabilities with it relative to K-12, but now that we've had this conversation, it's clear to all of us probably on this call that there would be a great value to do that, and I'm happy to do that. But I just need a work order, kind of. I need your all's best thoughts in terms of what you want it to do. and then I'll do as much as I can of it.
And Heidi, it wouldn't hurt to go ahead and request the spreadsheet from April or somebody at Princeton.
Yep, I will.
Of what you want, and then we can see how that folds into this.
Yep. Yeah, I will definitely do that. Bill's comment, I like that start date and such. I was just thinking, why wouldn't that work? We always come up with these great things of what would look awesome. Is if a district wanted to, based on a master agreement for teachers, say they started like the 12th of August, and so that is their school year, and based on their school year, how many absences. That is the only thing I would think that might hinder that start date when you look at week. I know, Andrew, you were talking about if the 12th is on a Wednesday, but you defaulted somehow to go back to that Monday, that may not be within that. So, again, this is one of the other things we can look at when we're developing or enhancing this.
Yeah. Well, the problem is you have to just think in date math relative to these choices, because these choices are good choices.
Right.
But then as soon as you start into the conversation, like days is easy, because if you say I pick day, I start on any day, who cares?
Right.
And I ask for X number of columns, and we don't allow you to go past 30 like we discussed. That's simple. If you pick the week, then the question is, what's that start date, and how does that translate to a week? And I think that's not hard to figure out, because
Right.
if weeks in this system, and again, this is very much because it has Danish roots, the week begins on Monday. And we know that by the fact that calendar shows up on the web client where the weekends are at the back part and not kind of having it split. So in our American world, we start on Sunday. They start on Monday. And so when you think about a week, I just need the start date to be a Monday. So I can even force it. I mean, if you click Show Matrix and you put week and you put a date that's not starting on a Monday, I could just pop up a message saying, no, a week has to start on Monday. But at that point, what do you care? I mean, it's just going to be slices of Monday through Sunday columns, X number, right? And so that's pretty straightforward. Month, same thing. We can just say, if you pick month, you've got to put the first of a month. If you don't, we error out. That just forces the user to quickly understand the system. Quarter, you got to pick a beginning of a quarter.
Right.
Now, that's a little bit different, but I think that's reasonable to just say, look, a quarter is a quarter, and so you're going to put in either a 1-1 date, a 4-1 date, a 7-1 date, or a 10-1 date.
Or would quarters be in 3-month segments starting with this period?
That could be. That would just mean that in that case, I would just simply require that you put the first of a month. And then I'll figure it out from there. And so if that's what you want to do, I think that's reasonable. Year, I think year can be any date as long as it's the first of a month. Again, same thing. Because at that point, I'll go 12 months out. I'll just do whatever, 12-month cycles are. The other thing I have to think about is, how do I handle the columns? That's always kind of an interesting part about this. And the thing is, this is using some very built-in technology to do this that I may have to muck with a little bit to get these columns right. Because just so you know, there's basically a very fundamental building block within the system that's doing all this. It's not even really on this page. It's actually accessing a very fundamental part. And so that's the part that I have to sort of think about. But anyway, let's just put our wish list together first. Don't worry about what we can or can't do. Just tell me what you want, and then I will build within the limitations of the technology, obviously, because I can't go beyond that. But hopefully, the key thing, the reason that I hesitate a little bit is because there's a tremendous speed element going on the way they've designed this. And so if I have to go to a different technique, it may make it so that I have to put a little bit of a thing on the front that says, please wait, and it's kind of doing a bunch of stuff because I can't access it in more of a fundamental way. So it's not instant. There might be a little bit of a delay, which may be still okay because it's still not that much data at the end of the day. Okay.
There is one thing that the payroll departments or EMIS people have to do, and that is a long-term illness at the end of the year. Is there a way to filter by long-term illness is 15 or more consecutive sick days in a row? Is there a good report to filter by that type of information to pull those employees based on it's going to be based on a fiscal year to date?
Yeah, I mean, we've had this request before. I've had this request in lots of demos where can you go into the system and tell me for a particular range of dates anybody that's been out consecutively for X days. It's 15.
Correct.
And no, I don't think we've ever developed that. So I think that's a separate report. That's a long-term leave analysis report of some sort that specifically you can run for. Now, let me ask you a question, though. One thing I don't know about it, I don't understand, maybe you'd have to just write it up, is if they're out for sick and they're out for vacation or what, I mean, does it matter what reason they're out?
It does. For ODE, for the Ohio Department of Education, long-term illness is 15 or more sick days used consecutively.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's actual data that we have to submit to the state. So it does have specific criteria.
Right. Now, I do feel like there's somewhere in the staff EMIS reporting that we've already done that. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I think we have done that. Let me just, where would I look? Let me see, HR. No, I think it's all in here.
Finance, yeah.
Staff workspace. Record type. Would it be staff demographic, you think, or staff employment? Do you know which one it's on?
I don't.
I don't know.
I don't know either. But I feel like there's a attendance days, absence days. Yeah, see the absence, long-term illness. So there's a setup somewhere that might be driving that as well. So let me just take a look at no, I don't see anything here per se. EMIS cash reconciliation, because let me just now flip over to code. Now I'm going to go to code because I know that we wrote something on this exact area, so I want to see how it's sort of built. All right, let's see. Long-term absence. There's something of long-term absence right there. Yeah, Muhammad did this.
It's on the CI record.
Yeah. I know that. So let me just go to see what he did. CI, where's his CI? Cash? You see CI in this anywhere?
Yeah, right up.
Yeah,
above,
right there.
Yeah, there it is.
Well, come on, dude. There's got to be more to it than that. Insert EMIS line. Oh, it's right here. Absence days, clear absence days. That's just absence days. This is long term, so here he goes. Yeah, so he's going through the date table. Report start and end. It's calculating to see if it's a work day. So he's just doing a test to see if this day he's going through is a work day. He's doing this from the entire year, basically, and he's trying to calculate this. But the question is, what leave is he actually using? I'm wondering. Day tables.
Here's the 15.
Is it an absence day, though? Yeah. So what he's basically doing is there's that field on the payroll control card called leave check group. And he's basically saying that if it's not equal to vacation or it's not equal to doc, then it's possibly needs to be reviewed to see if it's within the 15 days. So anything they take off, if it's consecutive or 15, and let me go to the leave control code. So let's just do that real quick. Yeah, I'll go here real quick. Department, payroll processing, payroll control. Oh, sorry, everything keeps going on my wrong computer. Wrong screen, I mean. Okay, so I want hours, don't I? There they are. So it's this field over here called leave check group. So basically he's taking doc and he was taking vacation out. Is that what he was taking out, Dan? Do you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what he's basically putting in then, which may not be correct. Again, I'm sure in Ohio you're not using the one called sick/personal.
No.
But he is considering sick and personal, if you will, and possibly option 1, option 2 in that scenario. He's not limited it to ones that you've classified as sick only. So if we went over now to Princeton, all right. Whoops, where am I? Here we go. I'm in Princeton, right? Yeah. So let's go to your controls then.
I wasn't even aware that field was being used.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
wow. So there's all your. These are Princeton, right? Swing, sick, personal. So yeah, I don't know if they are or not. So let's just kind of look here and see. Yeah, it's set to personal. Sick is turned to sick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wouldn't show up on your paycheck. You know what I mean? This is what causes it to show up on the paycheck. It wouldn't know how to put it into those buckets on the paycheck unless this is.
Okay, that's what that is, a check. That's
Yeah.
the leave check group for the check.
Yeah, but see, the problem with this is that to me says to me, based on the code I just read, that he's going to pick up option 1 because he's saying not equal to doc and not equal to vacation. So he's going to pick up swing days, right? I mean, that's how I look at that.
Yeah.
Again, let's just look at the code one more time, maybe. He's basically saying if the control is not equal to vacation and it's not equal to doc, then exit true to that call. Is this an absence day? Which I don't think is exactly what you guys want. So you may want to have some internal conversations at the EMIS level. You know what I mean? We want to be consistent. But again, I would argue that you still want to report because you're probably going to want this. Before you do the EMIS upload, you still want to have some sense of it, right? I mean, I'm assuming that maybe there's other reasons why you might want a report that does exactly the same thing. But I think the important thing would be that, we need to. Here's what I would suggest doing. I would suggest going to the control card, and I hate to add fields, but I would add another field. You know what I mean? That says, check this field if it's to be considered as part of a long-term, qualified for long-term illness. Because this is a generic concept across the country, right? I mean, what is the definition of a long-term? When does an employee now qualify for long-term illness? And I think it's more than just EMIS wants to know about it, right? I mean, I think it's other HR reasons, I would think.
Well, and they could want it, but just for different purposes. I just know ODE requires a long-term illness, and anybody who is eligible for sick leave, because it is just based on sick, would have that box checkmarked or should. So, if you're talking about adding an extra field on that control.
Yeah, I would just say that, this is a type of leave that can be used in determining long-term illness. I guess that's something that we may need to have more conversations, just like maybe in North Carolina or other places, to see kind of whether we can kind of come up with something that's more common thread here. I don't want to build something that doesn't make sense, but I guess to me, what I would look for you is just, again, same thing. Can you get them to put together what the report looks like? Is it just a listing of the people, or do you need to see, what do you need to see on the report itself?
Yeah. Okay. All right.
And that'll be my trigger, our trigger, to then ask other districts and then try to get the work order put together for the report. Now, I think the second thing is that was really important that whatever we do, and you need to make this maybe notated on when you send us this prototype, is that whatever we do, we need to make the report and what we're reporting to ODE to be consistent. So in other words, we need to enhance, if we're going to make this, put this new checkbox in and so forth, we need to then change the EMIS reporting code to actually now pay attention to that, not to what Muhammad did. Muhammad was told to just exclude doc and vacation, which of course is not, I think, correct,
Yeah, well, then you have districts like Princeton who have swing days, which, yeah. So, I mean, you're going to add those all kinds of criteria. I know on state software, there was a field that didn't even track it for us. We kind of had to keep track as a payroll person of who may have had 15 plus days consecutive out through the year. And then at that time of year, we had to go back, do an attendance run on them or an attendance report, count up how many days, and then what was reported to the state was obviously the employee number, the employee name, and the number of days that they missed. It wasn't even a, yes, did they take 15 consecutive or more? It actually listed the number of days that they missed that were consecutive.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. I think if we go back to the EMIS side of this, I think that's what it was. Well, again, I'm not sure where I'm at right now, but I mean, if I go to departments, state reporting, EMIS. All right, so this is the staff demographic record. Yeah, they want absence days, long-term illness.
Yeah, they want a total, right?
That number needs to be, and so I think if I remember the way this runs, if they took 15 days off, and then came back, worked a month, and took another 15 days off, you actually would say 30 here.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
Yeah.
that is correct. Yes.
Right. So I think the report should be run with a range of any date range they want. And then really what you're reporting is you're just listing the employees that A, qualified.
Yes.
And then secondarily, you're putting in, I probably would, on this report, do it a little bit more detailed. I would probably want to list each of the different sets. So let's say there were 2 sets. You would see the first set start on this day and ended on that day, and it comprises, X number, and then there's another set, X number, grand total, next employee. You know what I mean? So I think you should, see the detail by set because you may want to audit that, and in terms of a new field, the reason the new field's important is that report could be, you could enter a filter for that report to say which leave controls you want us to take a look at. And that may be a better way to do it. Here, I just had another idea. Let's not add a field. You saw me go to it. And this is why I instinctively thought it would be there, is I think we should just add a field here in this setup here to just say, what is the filter of the leave codes that represent long-term illness analysis, something like that.
Yeah.
And so you wouldn't have to add a field. You would just put it here,
Right.
and then that would be that. But then, well,
because you're going to have people like Princeton that break down their sick leave all over the place, and then you're going to have people that just put SI for sick, and that's
right.
it.
Right.
But I take it back. I won't put it here because we're trying to build this to be generic, not state specific. So you don't want to put it on Ohio State reporting. So we would actually flip that over. I'm sorry I said that now. I would go to HR and go to HR setup is where I would do it. Now in HR setup already we have, don't we have leave in here? I thought we had leave in here.
That's
Okay.
under leave. It's not under leave administration. Wouldn't it be under?
No, because leave administration doesn't have anything per se. It doesn't have its own setup card. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I do leverage, I felt like, stuff on HR setup, and maybe it's in the K-12E tab. Maybe I just stuck it here. Yeah, I think I've just been, since this hasn't gotten too bulky, I've kind of put it here, all that stuff. So I think that's what we probably would do, is just add another field here. So it would be here instead of the state reporting setup, because this will just be a generic concept for anybody, is how do you define, what leave controls are considered to be, for the analysis of that, And we would just use it in the EMIS side. We would just, on the EMIS side, we would change the EMIS thing to go ahead and use that as opposed to what Mohammed's doing, which is to just using the leave group. So that we would make that slight change and add the report as part of the same work order, if that makes sense to you guys.
Yep.
So that sounds like a good plan. Good. I understand why that would be useful. We have gotten this request from other places. How can the system help me determine I have a long-term leave situation?
Right.
That has not been an uncommon thing. We've heard that from many different.
Would you define the days also in that setup?
When you say the days, we really already know the days, the sense.
Well, but some people might say, well, it's 10 days or it's 15 days, or would you just do that
Oh
in the
yeah,
report?
no. I agree. No, it'll actually. Well, I don't have to for EMIS purposes because EMIS is hardwired to 15, so I can do the 15 in the code unit, but the report itself would be soft, and you would put in the number of days that you define. So I think it'd be more a report parameter. It wouldn't need to be.
Right.
The only reason I need to put the leave control parameter as a whoa.
Sorry.
Anyway, the only reason I need to do it as a parameter is because EMIS needs to know that, and EMIS can't. You're nowhere. You don't have a place to put it in when you're running the EMIS code. It's just like boom, it runs. So it just needs to have a setup somewhere. So that's why. But I have 15 already knowledge. I already know about 15 in the EMIS side. So yeah, that's how we would approach it, and hopefully that'll add some value to somebody down the line. Good. All right, what else on the leave side did you feel like we need to address in a possible work order or just in training right now? Anything else?
If anyone doesn't have anything on leave, something to go with hours and such like that, is there a report to see, it's not on absences, but on hours worked? For in other words, like your hourly employees that you're entering, or even on staff, is there a good report to see all employees and the hours that they've worked within a time period? We have that 30-hour rule now for insurance purposes, and that's become, everybody's barking up the tree about that. So.
Yeah, by the way, as soon as Congress came in with this new Congress, they passed a law that says that's changed to 40.
Okay.
And of course, Obama most likely will veto it.
Yeah.
But I'm like going, no, sign it, please. I mean, there's just too much pressure on us people that are actually in this accounting system world to have to deal with this issue.
Right.
Oh shoot, Linda's calling me. Hold on, she's at Wooster doing a go live, so just 2 seconds, I'll be right back. See what she needs. Hey Linda, how you doing? Good. You got a quick question. I'm doing a training with about 10 people, so I just need to track and all that. And that's okay. Go ahead real quick. Okay. You don't get a remittance advice. It doesn't print a remittance advice. It just prints a check, but yet it still will be included in the ACH file. Yeah, but you can't get a remittance advice. They just get a check, and that's their normal stuff, and that's all that happens. The only time you'll see them is in the export of the direct deposit report that prints. Very good, no problem. Bye-bye. Sorry about that, guys. You there?
Yep.
That was a good question. Linda was asking the question, what happens when somebody is part direct deposit and the balance is going to the check? She said, I didn't get a remittance advice. I said, well, you wouldn't get a remittance advice. It doesn't print a remittance advice. It's going to print the check. And she said, well, I got a check. I said, well, that's what you're supposed to get. So she says, well, how do I know then the direct deposit is going to work? And I said, the only way you're going to know that besides opening up the ACH file, the actual text file that was generated to see their lines in there, is that there is that report that prints when you export your direct deposit. They'll be on that report. She said, great, I'll go look for it. And so that was the conversation. So I just thought that might relate that to you guys, since we're all in this world together trying to figure this stuff out. What I would think to answer your question would be immediately the payroll control statistics report. That's what I would immediately go to. And again, I'm in Princeton. So again, I can come in here and say type, and I can just pick paid hours, because that's the paid hours, because the system is recording transactions of paid hours. So I can say date filter of 12/01/14 to 12/31/14. I want to know for December, my employee, what are my total paid hours, Now I could further filter for types of paid hours, but let's say I don't want to do that right now. Show recap only. I'm not sure what that does. New page per control, I guess I could do. It is going to separate it, though, by control. So let's just kind of go and see what that means. So you can see it's doing HR double. You see, probably even see more if I just move this yeah. So this first one is just overtime hours. So it's kind of breaks it all up a little bit. but it gives you the total amount of overtime hours, and then it gives you a grand total. And this is another one. This is per diem units. So it's all things that are. This is HR regular. So this is hourly regular, basically. Now it's grand totaled. In other words, I'm saying it's not per pay. It's grand total for the date range I specified.
Yep, that's all right.
Okay, and then I'm getting this, I guess, recap. Oh, this is the recap. Not sure what the heck's going on with the recap. I mean, I guess that's fine. I just think it's kind of like, I don't know. I don't like the recap. The fact that it should have gone to another page. Should have done it on the last page. But I'm not looking in the page layout again. Yeah, I am in a print layout. Yeah, I don't like that. Yeah, Bill, you have to decide if you like that from a design perspective. But the recap is recapping multiple pages that I've already printed, and it's at the end of just one. And it's cutting and I told it to cut to a new page. If I run this report and tell it to cut to a new page per pay control, I kind of expect the recap to show on a brand new page, not at the end. I'm sure Mohammed didn't really think that through, but I don't know, Bill, you may want to put a work order out there to fix that, because I just don't know if that makes a lot of sense. Anyway, but otherwise, so that's a great report, though, I think. That, to me, is the go-to report for something of this type of request. Obviously, they could get to the transactional detail by just going into the employee ledger, breaking filters, resetting filters, and sending to Excel. Voila, there's the data 2 seconds. So, again, we always emphasize reports are great, but, they have such easy access to the data that sometimes we forget about that. And but in this case, it's nice because the payroll control statistics report, if I ran this for a whole year, it would then give me the total number of regular hours for that employee. You know what I mean? Totaled. So
I think you can even, if you go to the payroll ledgers and you break the filters and you set it, you can save that as a view.
Yes, I think you can as well, and put that right on your roll center.
So right. You can just say, so if you don't want a whole bunch of the columns that are in the payroll ledger and your filters are already set, you might have to change your date range when you go in there, but you'd have a 5 or 6 column report that you could dump to Excel and then do something with.
Now we could also go to that again, just same as before. We did a training on that already. Not everybody was in the training that's on this call now, but we will repeat some of that training in some of the sessions I'll be doing with your new folks. But remember the payroll control schedule. So the payroll control schedule, you could easily go in there and define maybe as separate columns, whatever you want. Maybe I want my hourly here, my overtime. Maybe I want to then add all that up together to get total raw hours, whatever. You have all that in the control schedule. Now your rows are employees, your date filter is whatever date filter you want, and your columns are whatever hourly type thing you want. So payroll control schedule. And again, I think you guys should be training your operators at your different sites how to use that payroll control schedule tool. It's a very powerful tool. So again, I would recommend that on top of the payroll control statistics report, on top of the access to the raw data, and also setting, as Dan said, views and put that on your role center and so forth. So that gives you a lot of weapons, if you will, I think, against that particular issue. What else, Heidi?
Let me look at the group. Did you guys get your questions answered for leave stuff on the ERC? You're saying no. Are you still on? Can you ask that question? So, do you mind asking that question? Hang on, Angela's got a question for you. She's going to get on and ask.
Okay.
The leave reports that are created for the employees, do we have to set those up individually for them? Is all the data out there and they have to filter, or?
Are we talking about? Are you back to sort of asking questions about that leave inquiry system that we started with?
Probably.
Get back on you're talking about on the ERC, right?
Yes. Yes.
So once you assign them that leave inquiry permissions, then they have all that right here on their screen.
Yeah.
Okay, so we had to set that up for them.
Well, again, I would not advocate that Trecca sets it up for them. I would train,
Train them how
probably
to.
HR. If you have an I mean, I don't know. In some of your districts, I don't know if you have a defined HR function or whether it's the payroll person sort of acts like the HR function. But normally, to me, it's an HR requirement, not requirement, HR duty to sort of be trained on how to use the setup side of this. Which, again, we went back and we were in this area called leave administration, and we were setting up the inquiry access rules, remember? So this area is not something I feel like you guys can do it for them, obviously, but I don't think it's like teaching them to fish versus fishing for them. I think they should learn this tool, and all they have to do, quite honestly, is just do it and be channeling one person. Just think about the assistant principal at the high school. Okay, fine. What type of leave request is appropriate for that person to see? And they may say, well, all of them. And you'll say, all of them, including the elementary school? Oh, no, just the high school. Oh, okay, now we're having a conversation, and okay, now you're expressing to me what that person can see, but more importantly, you're also telling me what they can't see. And I think then they'll start to understand the conversation when they start thinking about that person. And now we're translating that to these rows in this screen. We're not doing it per person. Again, if they get into the habit of coming in here and typing in John Smith as the code, and they then put John Smith as a description and then create one for him, then one for Mary Jones, that doesn't make sense because there's very much likely multiple people in the same building that can have the same rule. So it's really more thinking at a higher level, this is the rule, and then that user would, those 4 or 5 users would have that same code. You know what I mean? So that's why we're making it, that's why we didn't put these fields directly on. We thought about putting these fields directly on the user setup card, but then we said, but you would have to enter them in over and over and over again. And, well, why would you be doing that? That would be really inefficient. So that's why we created the code and the description and then the filters. But there will be situations, no doubt, where they're going to have to set up a special row just for a special person because there is no other person that has that particular need, if you will, to see that particular bit of leave. So
the code that you create here gets put on the user card then? I'm sorry, I missed that part of the training.
Yes,
okay.
yes. So this test shows up here. So if I go to users and I bring up users and I bring up AVF in this case because I'm just in my little play world here, and I go to additional setup fields where we go to, and I'm sure you've already been in there before doing whatever. In there, we added this row and like 2 releases ago, this leave inquiry access code. This looks up into what we were just looking at. So once you've assigned that, so as soon as you set one up, again, just channel that one assistant principal, set up a code, get it set up, put on that person's user setup card, have that person log into the self-service and press that inquiry button, and then I think it'll all become obvious what to do.
Quick question on that is, here at Trecca, we have a leave inquiry access code of all. So we have 2 of our admins that we have all attached to, but one is marked as a timesheet administrator and the other one is not. And I was noticing that the one that is marked as a timesheet administrator has several more filters that they can get criteria from, as opposed to the one that is not a timesheet administrator.
No, I'm not buying that. You're talking about on the self-service system?
Yes, sir.
I mean, maybe. Let me look. I mean,
but Heidi, the only person that should be a timesheet administrator should be people that are creating timesheets.
Well,
creating them or approving them?
No, only people creating them and people in the back office. That's the administrator. People they can edit all of those in the back office. So typically people in the ER that are just accessing the ERC would never be a timesheet administrator.
Right. Well, this is an administrator over one of the groups.
No, that's just an approver. That's not an administrator.
So he should not be marked as a timesheet administrator. Only like people in the payroll department, whoever's creating those timesheets should be doing that.
Correct. And they can see all timesheets. But
you're talking timesheets now. We've been talking leave. I mean, you're not even talking the same area of the system. You know what I mean? So I'm not even sure why the time sheet administrator would have any effect on anything on leave. It does have an effect, and Dan's right. That time administrator is really meant to be the people that are, like Linda at Trecca, who are administering the timesheets in the back office. That's the only reason that they would have that checked. But here, I'm looking at the code right here, and all it's doing is it just goes and gets the code and basically sets all the filters. It just sets the filters and returns back the records that meet that criteria. That's all it's doing.
I was looking at both of them. Like I said, that was the only difference between both user cards on them. And the one that was marked Timesheet Administrator was able to do some more filtering than the one that was not marked that way. So I'll do some more investigation on that.
Yeah, when you say filtering, though, I'm not sure you're talking the inquiry button on the self-service module.
Yes.
Yeah, you are?
Yes.
Yeah, that seems to me you should do more. There's something else in this conversation that we're missing right now.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
I don't know what it is. I'm trying to think, because you're saying they both have the all on their user setup card.
Yes.
So I would argue that they're just, they if you had their two stations next to each other and press the button at the same time, they should get exactly the same results. Now, if they then go further and start doing what I was suggesting, which is, clicking on this thing and typing in, whatever, 5 days or something, whatever, or start clicking this button. I mean, or entering a filter. Remember, if you see them entering a filter, it's going to show up. So in other words, if I do something like this just for the fun of it and put Clark in there.
And this is where it was different when we started doing these filters.
Yeah, and so at that point, you see that I know I have a filter applied. So I'm just saying, if you put two computers together and one person is starting to do something, then the data could look different, but it's really more about what they're doing in that runtime session as opposed to anything on the way the screen opened up, because it's just completely generic. Just say, give me all the ERC requests that are in the system. There's no other access that I can think of that's being built. There is one more place in the system that it is loading. So let me just click here and see if there's anything here.
Heidi, we could do this Monday evening, Monday night. Take a look at all this.
All right. Yeah, I don't want to deter from what's and to come back to Angela's question there. So the leave reports that Dan created for Princeton, for example, those are kind of null and void now. I mean, we can leave them on there because they're used to them being there, but to set up what those privileges are on the additional setup, we need to do that or show them how to do that then.
That's exactly
on that
right.
Inquiry access. Okay.
Yeah, I think I even said to you before, what Dan did is because Dan's, he's just creative and he's just trying to, do whatever he can because the heat's on him, right? But we felt like, again, pending feedback, obviously, we felt like we addressed what Dan was trying to do with this leave inquiry system. So the hope was that you would go back and sort of config that off of the role center. Because, if you give it to them, they'll, we won't then get them to focus on what we want them to focus on to get the feedback we need to improve the platform. You know what I mean? It hurts us all in the long run, In the short run, we give them some satisfaction. In the long run, we hurt our major goal, which is to make it great for everybody.
No, I think, Angela, does that answer your question then? That the leave reports that are on there for Princeton now, we can just leave them, but as far as like the permissions now and the additional setup, we can set up a few basic ones and then show them how to do that as to what.
I think we'd be better off if we would pull those leave reports off of their profiles and get them used to using this piece of it.
Yeah,
right.
We've not shown Princeton anything about this yet.
Because this has really got
the only one using it.
This has really got more, I think, information available to it than the leave report piece of it. Because here, if you're using the leave inquiry, you get current requests, past requests, some of those kinds of things, and how many days out,
approval history.
Like that.
Well, approval history, who approved it? It's like, who in the hell approved that person being off? We answer that question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so then we'll work at getting those groups set up and then instructions out to our districts, mostly Princeton, so that they know how to do that. Of course, I don't, So anyhow, I don't know that we knew how to do that on the leave inquiry access, so I appreciate you showing me that
good.
again and addressing Angela's question. So
No, good. And I think we've used up a lot of time relative to our discussion on error trap or errors. I think that I'd like to have a lot of conversation about that, so I think we should push that to next time if that's okay. Is that okay?
yeah, yes, I'm sorry. Yes,
Okay.
I didn't know you were talking to us. So
Yeah.
yes.
Well, no, I think because we're a little bit on past our time, and my headset's starting to beep at me.
Yes, sorry. Yes, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Now, in terms of our next sessions, just so we know, I have on the calendar coming up early as Monday. We do 2 payroll sessions, 2 to 4 Monday and Tuesday. And so, who will be in there on your end, and how should I structure the sessions? I guess.
I believe Brenda will be.
Is Brenda going to be in Firelands with us?
Brenda will not. No. Oh, Brenda's going to be at Firelands till 3:30. No, I'm sorry. Can you unmute and can you talk to him? Keep your headset on. And there's a button in the bottom left.
Hi, it's Brenda. I will be here Monday, and I will be here on Tuesday, but I have to leave at 3:30 on Tuesday.
Okay, I'll shorten up that appointment then, so that we show it to 3:30 then, if that's okay.
Okay.
Just so that's real
Catherine
time.
on that too. Catherine, are you in on that as well?
No, I wasn't originally,
Okay.
but I plan on listening in just to kind of get a background on it.
Do you want me to add you to the invite, Catherine?
That would be great, Andrew.
Catherine, let me see. Now, are you C. Zimmer?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Andrew, this is Bill. Can you add me also?
All right, cancel. Bill, I thought I had you on here. No, I didn't have you on there. Bill. All right, done. Well, it's I got to do it. There's 2 different sessions I'm doing, so I'm gonna do the other one.
And these sessions are on what?
We're just doing basic payroll training. We're starting at the beginning of time. I'll go at a pace. The pace is really going to be set by Brenda and Catherine. You guys, particularly Brenda, you'll help me in setting the pace. So if I'm going too deep, too fast, not enough, not fast, you'll have to let me know.
Okay, that sounds good.
But I'm just going to start sort of at the higher level of what payroll is, and just kind of build out, at a different level. We won't cover everything in that short amount of time, but we will cover a lot of the bases. So, anyway, that sounds good, guys. Well, you guys have a good weekend.
Thank you. You as well.
All right, we'll talk Monday, and I'll look for some more information on that analytic on the leave and all that other stuff. I'm really excited about some of that stuff. So, send it on once you have